A very good morning to all of you. Welcome to today's news analysis. We are doing the Indian Express paper, Chandigarh edition. And in this analysis, the idea is to have a quick brush up of the contents that are there in the newspaper. Now coming to the front page. So first of all, we have information about Prime Minister who starts his visit to the United States. The content that you see over here, it is dragged onto the second page also. So it is basically telling us about some of the elements from the Prime Minister's speech. And Prime Minister is telling us as to what all things he is going to do in the US. So here he says, first of all, they are stronger together, India and US, in meeting shared challenges. So this itself is a theme. And by the way, this is part of GS2 international relations. And Indo-US relations are very, very important, specifically from mains point of view. Now here Prime Minister first of all says that the relations between the two, the ties, are multifaceted. That means there are multiple dimensions to India-US relations. So it is multifaceted and the engagements are deepening. So across various realms like economy, defense, healthcare, security, strategic, their relations are deepening. Their engagement is deepening. So let us cover first this only. So I'm zooming in. Yeah. So from economy point of view, the US is India's largest trade partner. So largest trade partner. Then we are working on science and technology, education, health, defense and security fields. We're also working on critical and emerging technologies. For example, the scientific observatory for measuring of the gravitational waves, LIGO, or we can call for chips manufacturing, semiconductor manufacturing, we are working on that. So critical and emerging technologies. In fact, it has been elaborated here. Defense, industrial cooperation, space, telecom, quantum, artificial intelligence, and biotech sectors. Then, with an eye on China, the both countries are focused on having a free, open and inclusive Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific region refers to the sea south of China, the South China Sea region, all that is Indo-Pacific. Besides this, the two countries are working on plurilateral forums. Plurilateral means there are more than one or two countries in a particular diplomatic forum. So we are working with G20, working together in G20, Quad, IPEF, like that. So some of them have been mentioned. So this is an example of a multifaceted relationship. Besides the deepening of engagement, one good example is Prime Minister Modi will be addressing the joint session of the US Congress, because he is invited to do so. Then he will be celebrating the Yoga Day which is June 21st at the United Nations headquarters, which is in New York. Then diaspora engagement and engagement with their prominent people, for example, prominent celebrities, including Hollywood actors. Then industrial leaders, he will talk to them, such as Elon Musk. So all that Prime Minister Modi himself has stated. So this covers the front page. We are done. I mean, the first part. Moving on, within this only, we have one more news. China blocks US-India move at UN to blacklist 2611 plotter Sajid Mir. Now you notice one more thing, deepening of engagement at plurilateral fora. UN is a plurilateral fora. And US-India working together on security issue. 2611 attack that happened in Mumbai. So his plotter Sajid Mir, they want to blacklist him. And normally when people are blacklisted, there are specific resolutions for this. So in the UN, we have 1267 resolution. This is very important, has been asked recently in the pre-examination. So what is this 1267 resolution? Besides this, I think it is already clear China has blocked India's move on this front, and China is doing it at the behest of Pakistan. It's all-weather friend. That is what is mentioned on page 4. I'm just telling you right here. So I'll not discuss it again. Now let us look at the 1267 resolution, UNSC resolution 1267. So this has been news ever since the Pulwama attack against, and this time previously it was for the Jaish-e-Mohammed chief Masood Azhar. Now what is this 1267 resolution? So this was adopted anonymously on 15th October 1999 for overseeing sanctions against Taliban and Osama bin Laden. So it was in that light the US had introduced this. Obviously, we're talking Taliban and Osama bin Laden. So UN 1267 resolution is also called as Al-Qaeda and Taliban Sanctions Committee. Fine. So Al-Qaeda and Taliban. However, Jaish-e-Mohammed etc. are not part of this. But in the course of time, since 1999, about 24 years have gone by. So the ambit of this resolution has expanded. So ambit has been expanded over here. So it includes other people also can be added. Now, what is the benefit for India by mentioning somebody as an international terrorist? What are the benefits under the UNSC resolution 1267? This would lead to curtailment of their movement, freezing and seizure of their properties. It empowers the government of that country to take all possible actions against them. So this is briefly the UNSC resolution 1267. You should have basic idea that this resolution is to do with terrorist activities. And it will evoke sanctions against that person. Okay, so this is the first part. Moving on, Punjab Vidhan Sabha passes bill that empowers state government to appoint DGP. This is Punjab news, but it is reflective of state-center relationship. And this is something very recent and applies to all the states. So, which is about appointment of the state DGP. State DGP implies the police commissioner. So the process of appointment of the state DGP. So the Supreme Court sometime back had enacted, Supreme Court had given a judgment based on the Prakash Singh committee, Prakash Singh petition. There is a Prakash Singh committee also on police reforms. So, based on that, it had given this thing, and which would define how the police state DGPs are selected. And according to that process, or as per the UPSC norms, the process is the state government, the respective state government, whichever state it is, it will be giving the names of 3 eligible officers for consideration or for the post of state DGP. Fine. So the state government will give names of 3 eligible candidates to the UPSC, and then amongst them the DGP will be elected, will be chosen, selected, actually selected is a better word, so selected by them. So state will have limited control on appointment of the state DGP, limited control. However, and the purpose behind this was to bring more objectivity and having a neutral state DGP. That was the basic idea. So some intervention is being done. We want police officers to be neutral and apply the rule of law even if it goes against the political power party in power. Okay. Now, what is the Punjab government saying? Punjab government said that, see, this is a state subject, law and order, police. So, and the state government should have control over appointment of the state DGP. So, in that light, the Punjab legislature has enacted a law. Right? It has passed a bill actually, not enacted a law because governor has to sign it. So it has passed the bill. What is it saying? The state government will give the names of eligible officers to the UPSC. The UPSC will then shortlist 3 officers. And amongst these 3, the state will select anybody as or appoint anybody as the DGP. So it will empower, this bill will empower the state government to appoint a DGP of its choice. However, the choice is incumbent upon the members chosen by the UPSC. I hope you get it. So this was the prescribed norm. State gives names of 3 eligible officers to the UPSC and UPSC appoints it. Now what is happening? The state gives names of eligible officers. It doesn't tell us how many, but eligible officers to UPSC. UPSC shortlists 3 eligible officers and state then appoints. This is what the Aam Aadmi Party in Punjab wants. The Punjab government wants. We can put it anyhow. Okay. So now this part is done from the front page. Moving on. Conduct of polls cannot be licensed to violence. Supreme Court dismisses Bengal plea for non-appointment of Central Security Forces. Now the next is about the Gandhi Peace Prize. We had studied this in the yesterday's newspaper. So here we have an allegation from one of the jury members belonging to the opposition party that he was kept in dark. Now very quickly, the jury of the Gandhi Peace Prize comprises of the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice, and the leader of the largest opposition party. So this we had done yesterday also. Besides the politics, we're not really interested. Yes, we should know more from point of view as to Gandhi Peace Prize is associated with who all can get awards. So all that. So a person of any nationality can get it for their contribution. So this is about the Gandhi Peace Prize. And you should know one more thing, the difference between Indira Gandhi Peace Prize and Gandhi Peace Prize. This Gandhi is about Mahatma Gandhi. Now, moving on, we have had the first meet of the National Capital Civil Services Authorities first meet. So recently, the central government or the center passed an ordinance. Ordinance means a temporary law. So ordinance which provided for establishment of the National Capital Civil Services Authority. As the name goes, national capital. So it will be looking into the matters concerning the civil services for the National Capital Territory and the matters of appointments, the matters of transfers, postings, all that. Now here we can move to the next page. Here, this authority that is created, it will be headed by the Chief Minister. It will be headed by the Chief Minister. Besides this, there shall be the Chief Secretary and the Principal Secretary of the Home Department. The decisions that this authority takes, this should be on the basis of majority. It's written over here, majority of the votes of the members present and voting. Now the Chief Minister, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, is saying that this committee is futile as he can be overruled. His opinions can be overruled by the chief secretary and the principal secretary of the home department. So they can overrule him. And it is likely because these two are appointed by the center. So he has a conflict over here. Now let's move on. So moving on. Nightclub running illegally and selling drugs. Punjab singer among two held over drug trafficking. Okay. So we can look at it from this point of view. GS3, drug trafficking, drug issues, drug trafficking from the point of view of national security, it can be point of view. Then the issue of drugs from the health point of view also can be seen, society and drugs, GS1. We get this topic repeatedly, so we'll do it some other time. Okay, some city news, not relevant. Okay, now we have some regional news, which is talking about the Rural Development Fund. So very quickly, I'll do this. So new term actually. Okay. So non-release of Rural Development Fund from the center. So the Chief Minister threatens to move Supreme Court against the government. Assembly passes resolution. Fine. Now, what is this Rural Development Fund? That was drawing my attention. So what is the Rural Development Fund? So according to what the government is saying, Punjab government, that center had prescribed that the state shall pass a law. The state shall pass a law in which when there is a transaction from the mandi, mandi is the place where buying and selling of grains, food items take place. So when buying and selling takes place from mandi, typically the Food Corporation of India buys at bulk. So there shall be a levy of 3% cess. 3% cess. Cess is a kind of tax. So when buying and selling, obviously buying and selling will not, it will always be about selling of grains to the FCI, Food Corporation of India. So when this takes place, or let's say for some reason FCI, their buying is also taking place. So there shall be, whatever sale is taking place, of this 3% should be contributed to the Rural Development Fund. And this fund should be solely used for the welfare of the farmers. This may be for development of mandis, for development of roads. So in anything, cold storages, anything. So it is for the welfare of the farmers, which anything, yeah. Now center is not granting the Rural Development Fund. It's not releasing it actually. So the CM is saying that they will move to the Supreme Court. They will file a petition with the Supreme Court. Now, why are they going to the Supreme Court and not to the High Court? Because the original jurisdiction on federal matters goes to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court is a federal court. Okay, so you can move on. Gadkari, the Minister of Roads, inaugurates 11 flyovers on NH44 from Delhi to Panipat. Okay, so NH4 is the road which connects Delhi, Chandigarh. So on that, Haryana is there. 11 flyovers are being done. International Yoga Day, again one ad over here. And I like ads because many a times they give us information for prelims, some quick facts. Okay, now we are on the explained section. And the first article that we have is about heat wave. Yesterday I had showed you the NDMA website and the link which provides for, it was a paper released by the NDMA, National Disaster Management Authority, as to how to deal with the heat waves. So I want you to refer it. Today also I am sharing it very briefly, but okay. Now let's go with the flow of this article first of all. So the Union Minister, Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia, So he held a meeting with senior officials of the Indian Meteorological Department and various other authorities like National Disaster Management Authority, etc., due to the concerns associated with heat wave. And he has asked them to take corrective measures, approach the state governments or areas where there is a possibility of heat wave and heat wave related deaths. So this is it. Then we have more of this health thing. You drink water, you do this, that, all that thing is there. So we'll just ignore it. We come to the NDMA website, heat wave. So we can go with this also. Yeah. So this is the link. This I got it from the NDMA website. So you can see all the contents are there. The introduction, definition, the impact of heat wave. Then one more important thing was the rationale for the heat wave action plan. See, this seems to be important, rationale. Why should we have it? What are the concerns? How vulnerable we are? Everything will come under this thing. And this is can be a direct question for the mains paper. Now here, when I talk about the mains paper, one is if we talk about heat waves solely as a disaster, then it should be part of GS3. If we look at it as a geographical phenomena, then it will be part of the GS1 because geography is in GS1. GS3 is complicated actually. It includes disaster management as well as environment. So if it is asked from environment, climate change, I mean, it can be either of GS3 and GS1. The focus here should be on geography, here disaster management and environment. Very thin line of difference between environment and geography if we talk about climate change and everything. Okay, let's quickly go through the definition now. I'm scrolling it quickly. You should also get an idea as to what all are the contents. So yeah, so here is the definition. So there are multiple definitions. So yesterday when I was telling you about the definition of the heat wave, I was stating the World Meteorological Organization, which says the temperature which exceeds 5 degrees normal. Right? So that is the heat wave. However, in Indian context, they say that if the temperature is below 40 degrees Celsius, let's say even in the month of December, it is below 40 degrees Celsius, then also we will not consider as heat wave. It is only when the temperature goes past 40 degrees Celsius, we will deem it as heat wave. If it goes past it, there is a discretion. So, and if it is past 45 degrees, then it is definitely a heat wave when actual maximum temperature is greater or equal to 45 degrees Celsius. So it says departure from normal is 4.5 degrees to 6.4, but it shall not be considered if the temperature of a station reaches at least 40 degrees Celsius. It has to go past 40 degrees Celsius. So 40 degrees Celsius for plains, 37 degrees for coastal stations, and 30 or more for hilly regions. It has to go past that, then this criteria comes in. Heat waves in India, the vulnerability, you get it. Past experience. We should have Odisha State Development Authority. What are they doing? The health warning, early warning systems, public outreach, medical upgradation, and administrative measures. Okay, so rationale for the heat wave action plan. This seems important. Vulnerability assessment again. Now, vulnerability assessment should include certain things like vulnerability in terms of geography, in terms of region where temperature is likely to rise. And besides this, the vulnerable population. The vulnerability of the population is also important. For instance, there is a temperature of 45 degree plus, there is a heat wave. But let's say we are sitting in AC, so it is not affecting us as much as somebody who's living in a slum area where there is lack of access to water, drinking water. So see, we have to look at it from a social perspective also. The key strategies are mentioned over here. These have to be elaborated. Okay, so you can get this PDF very easily. If you don't get it, just let me know. Now moving on to the next explainer, which is about India-US relationship. So as we are having this India-US, this diplomatic engagement at this moment, Prime Minister Modi's visit, we are going to have more and more of these articles. Now, I would like to specifically mention that yesterday's article that we had on India-US was very, very comprehensive, and you really don't need to look beyond that one. Right? And I told you to take a screenshot also of the same. So that was one which I feel is more important personally. I'll take a note also, taken a screenshot of the same. Okay, now very quickly we'll cover this also, what all things are mentioned. So here Prime Minister Modi, when he has gone to the US, he has said that US has overcome the hesitations of the history and called for ever stronger economic and defense ties. So what are these hesitations of history that he is talking about? So hesitations emerged with India, in the 1970s, first of all, the nuclear test that India conducted, and then during the Vajpayee time, 1998. So at that point of time, the world was shaken. The US was anyways trying as to how India does not become a nuclear weapons power. So India, they were looking at it. They had put restrictions on India in getting access to critical technologies, nuclear raw material, etc. So eventually, so this was the baggage of history. So eventually, in 2008, this thing started to change. There was the waiver on the NSG waiver to the Indo-US nuclear deal. We had an Indo-US nuclear deal, and we had sanctions on India because of the nuclear tests. So this US has been able to get past. In fact, now we see deepening of engagement in technology. So after we see the end of technology denial regime. Earlier it was the technology denial regime for India, but now we see greater engagement. India getting access to nuclear waivers, getting access to membership to various important nuclear forums, and then this one, initiative for critical and emerging technologies, which was announced on May 2022 by President Joe Biden and the Indian Prime Minister Modi. So this is the same thing as explained, nuclear test of 1998. Now, the relation between India-US, somehow it is hinging on the complex Indo-Pacific relations. So Indo-Pacific is the place, Indo-Pacific strategy as to how India and US will work together. We have some convergence of views on that front, right? So there we converge over here. However, there are some differences also. For example, the USA's exit from Afghanistan. USA exited from Afghanistan, that too without keeping India in loop initially. So India was not in loop when US-Taliban talks were taking place. India was upset with this. Then USA's exit from Afghanistan had compromised India's position in Afghanistan. So this was not liked by this thing. Then the other headwind, the major problem now was the invasion of Ukraine. And we have been able to get past. That is what it is saying, that Afghan issue had happened, but we are able to get past, and we are seeing deepening of engagement. Then Ukraine was a very big challenge, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We could not outrightly go against Russia because we are deeply engaged with Russia, specifically because of our defense ties. About 60% of the military hardware is coming from Russia. What if it says that your Sukhois, India's imported fighter planes, we will not service them, we will not provide weapons for it. So then Indian can't. So this was a problem, and US acknowledged it. In fact, even with reference to India buying fuel from Russia, USA had imposed sanctions on any country which decided to trade with Russia. On this front, India was continuously buying oil from Russia. So it was able to acknowledge India's sensitivity to Indian economy, because oil prices would have gone high. It would have hampered the Indian economy. It would hamper the currency of India. So all of that. So this is it. So we are seeing that despite all this, the relations are going forward. And then one more issue is the US has a political party known as Democrats. They have been vocal about the human rights issue, freedom of press, rights of minorities. So we hear from time to time US has raised express about certain events in India, and India says it is India's internal matters. Now, despite all this, the interest, strategic interest, outweigh these concerns, the concerns associated with the moral principles. Now we move on to a very important topic, that is the Bonn climate meet. So I'll quickly go through this. First, the headline. So at Bonn climate meet, old conflicts and some forward movement. Okay. So what all is happening? What is this Bonn climate meet? So Bonn climate meet is a consequence of the Paris meet that took place previously. The Paris meet is known as the COP21, the famously Paris summit. And here, the world community reiterated their goal of keeping the global climate change or the global warming, limit this to 1.5 degrees Celsius oblique 2 degrees Celsius of pre-industrial levels. So this was the target set, that it should not go beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius. That was the goal. So that was in Paris. What is happening in Bonn? So the Paris summit took place in 2015. And back then it said that in times to come, we shall take a global stock take, which is abbreviated as the GST. So the global stock take is an assessment or a stock taking of how the countries are performing on their commitments to climate change. So the global stock take is taking place at Bonn Climate Meet. And this is mainly involving people of bureaucracy, not political leaders, but bureaucracy kind of people. So normally such people create a background, and they are more technically conversed and all those things. So these people are working together, and eventually there will be another summit in Dubai, again associated with the same topic. And this one is the COP28. Dubai one is this one, right? So this will be the conclusion will take place in Dubai. Okay, so I hope you get the idea. The Bonn Climate Summit that is taking place, it is a global stocktake exercise. It is to see what all inadequacies are there in the measures being taken and how these shortcomings be bridged, or we can bridge the adequacy gap. So that is the idea. Now here we find old conflicts. What are the old conflicts? The old conflicts are with matters of finance. The developed economies should provide money to developing economies, least developed countries, and historical responsibility of rich countries. So these two. In fact, India's stance is on climate change common but differentiated responsibility. Common but differentiated responsibility. Common, everybody has responsibility, but the richer countries have higher burden. So they should be differentiated burden on the world countries. It cannot be common burden to all the countries. Now, the rich countries, as usual, they are protesting. They don't like this, the issue. They say that things have changed from now. Back then when these commitments of burden of rich countries or differentiated responsibility thing was accepted in the climate change, this thing. So this thing has changed. So previously, there was a list of countries known as Annexure 1. These included countries who have historical responsibility and should do extra to deal with the issue of climate change. Now, these Annex 1 countries or these rich countries, they are saying, no, uh, now the things have changed. And please, this point is very important. I highlight this. It pointed out that since 1992, when this Annex 1, this list was created, 57% of the carbon dioxide emissions have come from non-Annex 1 countries. 57%. And it said 70% of the incremental warming is coming from non-Annex 1 countries. What is incremental warming? That is warming post 1992, we can call it that way. So that can be attributed to these countries. Now, one point I want to yes, it's a valid point. How many are rich countries and how many are non-annexed countries? Obviously, non-annexed countries are lots more. So the share of pollution of the Annex 1 countries is 43%. We can put it lesser countries, but polluting a lot more. The significant amount of pollution is taking place. So we could argue it that way also. Okay. So this is it. This is an important point that I wanted you to note. Now, just like the global stock take or the GST, there was another mechanism that was set up at COP26 in Glasgow, the Glasgow Summit in 2021. This is the Mitigation Work Program. Again, as the name goes, mitigating climate change. So what work is going on? So discussions at the MWP ran into trouble because of the issue of enabling finance and technology transfers from the Annex 1 countries. Now, some fact associated, the developing, the expense that is required is about $400 billion. Yesterday, we did the editorial and it was around $350-360 billion. So we can use a rough estimate. We can also use it. So about this much finance is required, about $400 billion. And what are we getting? $30 billion. Yesterday it was mentioned, not even $30 billion. In fact, the Annex 1 countries, through their Green Climate Fund, they had said that every year they'll be providing for $100 billion. So we're not nowhere close to that. So overall, we have got this much amount. Okay, so this was about the Bonn meet. Moving forward, and I don't think we have more now. So very quickly, editorial, I think we can give it a skip today. We have more on the Indo-US. So yoga standards, yes, there is something on yoga. Gandhi bore the brunt of Gita Press founders, not important. Okay, international news now. So we'll just go through the headings. Russia launches night strikes at Kiev, the capital of Ukraine, and hits Ukraine cities from far from front line. So the human populations are being targeted, cities are being targeted, not the front line. Normally the wars, you see it on the front line. Okay, Putin had threatened that they can use nuclear weapon. President Biden says, yes, they may use it. Then there is a World Refugee Days Stakeholder Forum taking place. Now, when I was reading this, what came to my mind from exam point of view, should we have a policy on refugees? I know it is not directly related, but the need for a refugee policy, how we deal with the situation, I think that is a very important theme. Okay. RBI, we are on the economy section. RBI defends compromise settlement, says lender to exercise discretion. Okay. Yesterday we didn't do it, so, and it was in the editorial section. So now we have the main news on it. So what is this compromise settlement? So RBI has said that lenders are the people who give money, right? So lenders have given money to the borrowers, and there are borrowers like Vijay Mallya, Nirav Modi, all those people. So there are certain willful defaulters. Willful defaulters are people who have the ability to pay, but they do not pay back. Right? So the lenders can get into a compromise with the defaulters. It provides them the discretion. It's a discretionary thing. It is not mandatory. So lenders, if they wish, they can get into compromise with defaulters over here, with the willful defaulters. So this is being seen as a controversial exercise. Many people from the banking sector are not happy with this, because you see, this breaches trust. This is a lack. This is providing lack of incentive to people who are paying back their loans. Right? Some compromise is made, and when compromise is made, the lender will not be able to receive much money from the willful defaulter. Plus, when compromise is made, the legal responsibility of fraud, etc., is also compromised. So legal action is also not there. And besides this, very controversial, the RBI has said that 1 year from the compromise, after 1 year, so there will be a 12-month cooling off period after the compromise, and then again these people, the defaulters, can take loan. So they can again get back into the financial sector. They can avail their services and probably do fraud again. So there is a problem with this move. This is highly controversial, and they have said that it is a discretion of the banks. It's up to them if they want to do it or not. Now, how is RBI defending it? RBI is saying that, see, we are giving this is a discretion. This is for the lenders to decide if they want to come to a compromise or not. This is a mechanism that we are providing to the banks or the lenders to get back their assets. Although we all know that the losses will be much more. So it is a discretion. Then it is saying that because of all these formalities, when somebody becomes a defaulter and everything, there is a lot of time that goes by. And because of the loss of time, because the time goes by, the assets, let's say a person was running a business, let's say Vijay Mallya, Kingfisher Airlines. So the assets depreciate, right? He must be having his airlines, planes, some assets in the airport, all those things. So the value of the assets gets compromised. Or we can think of Jet Airways. So with a compromise, the lenders will be able to save on time and therefore protect the value of the assets. So it will lead to less loss. However, it is up to the discretion of the lenders. So it's washed its hands from there by saying it is a discretion. So yeah, so banking people are also not happy with this, as it will affect the credit culture of the country. At the same time, it is providing lack of incentive for people who are actually following the law, and it is favorable to the defaulters with which compromise has been made. Okay, moving on. India Inc. feels time is ripe for the next phase of GST reform. So we are already talking about the GST reform. So time is ripe. We need to change the GST. That means there are some issues with the GST which is not really mentioned. All it says, it is very complex. It is still complex. So we don't get much here. By the way, this is from the Deloitte survey, so independent survey. So many business people are in favor of this. Now, from mains point of view, of course, GS3, we can look at it as a theme for GS3, which is GST reform. So GST reform would mean definition of GST, the issues plaguing the GST, and what corrective measures need be taken, or what are the recommendations that have been suggested. So these are things that we can work. Report by G20 group on multilateral development banks to be submitted in 2 parts, says NK Singh. Fine. So that means we can do it later. In fact, I don't get much here. So when the report comes, we will have much more information, then we will analyze this. So with the explainer section, we are done. Been done with the today's news. So this is it from my side. Bye bye and all the best.